Hey, what's going on, guys? Patriot Prime here once again with another top 10 list. Now, this list has been inspired by a few things. One, it's the most wonderful time of the year. Two, I've been watching quite a few 80s slasher movies. And three, I just completed my first ever horror figure review. And I invite you guys to check that out right here. I put a lot of effort into that. So anyway, during all this horror-filled activities I've been doing, I got to thinking, there has been a lot of horror-style deaths within the Transformers universe, specifically in Generation 1. Now, before we get to talking about those deaths, I need you guys to do me a favor. If you're watching this video right here and are not subscribed to Patriot Prime Reviews, please hit that subscribe button right now. I'm trying my best to reach 2,500 subscribers by TFCon. My initial goal was 2,000, but I blew that one out of the water, so any help will be greatly appreciated. So now, without further ado, welcome to Patriot Prime Reviews Top 10 G1 Transformers Horror-Style Deaths. Now, before I get started with my list, let me tell you the three things I was looking for when I was putting it together. Number one, shock value. Number two, gore. At least gore as far as the Transformer is concerned. And three, the character had to die. So horror-themed stories such as Ratchet fusing with Megatron, even though that looks like something straight out of The Thing or The Fly, will not count because Ratchet and Megatron did not die. So anyway, kicking off my list with number 10 is Runabout from Marvel Comics. At the end of the Unicron battles, Runabout is out on patrol looking for survivors. He happens to hear a noise and goes wandering off to investigate. While he's looking, a monstrous looking hand, shoots out of the ground, grabs Runabout, pulls him under, and eats him right in front of a very horrified looking High Q. So that is so horror movie style, because how many films have you seen where the character hears a weird noise and thinks, hey, I'm going to wander off by myself down this dark hallway and check it out. So anyway, that's my number 10, Runabout. Number 9 is Cyclonus from the Marvel UK series. Now in Marvel UK, Galvatron, Cyclonus, and Scourge are time hoppers. They're jumping from their time in the future, 2005, to the 1980s, wreaking havoc. Now, unfortunately for Cyclonus and Scourge, during one jump, they run into a very pissed off Megatron. And I think at the time, Megatron was under the control of either Shockwave or Straxus. Help me out down there in the comments, UK fans. Anyway, Megatron beats Cyclonus and Scourge near death. But to finish off the job, Megatron actually grabs Cyclonus. And he has Cyclonus, Megatron's behind him and has a hold of his head. Cyclonus is pleading for Scourge to help him, and then Megatron just rips his head off. That was just like amazing at the time, and reminds me of the old Friday the 13th films where you always see Jason just grab somebody and pull their head off. So that was quite shocking, and that death actually kicked off one of the best Transformer storylines ever, with the Time Wars story. So anyway, that's my number 9, Cyclonus. Number 8 is Brainstorm from Marvel Comics. Brainstorm was the first casualty of the Unicron battles. Unicron, when he attacked Cybertron in Marvel, was already in robot mode, and he scoops his hand down to the planet, pulling chunks of it up. Now, Brainstorm happened to get impaled on Unicron's fingertip. And Unicron's kind of picking him up and looking at him. And you see Brainstorm suffering. He's sitting there going, like that. And then Unicron just eats him. And that reminds me of those monster movies where the creature would grab somebody and is pulling them into their mouth. And that's immediately what I thought of. It was kind of shocking because the way Brainstorm was just struggling on the tip of that finger. And to no avail, he gets eaten. So anyway, that's my number 8, Brainstorm. Number 7 is Fangry from Marvel Comics. Now, after the Unicron battles, the Autobots and Decepticons had a truce. but Fangry and Grimlock were always at each other's throats. Then in issue 80, when the truce had ended, Fangry attacked Grimlock, and Grimlock punched right through his chest. I mean, you see Grimlock, he punches him, and then the equivalent of Fangry's guts and stuff are shooting out the back. And that reminded me of Friday the 13th, Part 6, where Jason punches through the guy, ripping his heart out. So I thought that was very horror movie-esque, and quite a shock seeing that happen, especially from Grimlock. Number 6 comes to us from Transformers the movie, Kranix. This shocked me as a kid. I mean, Transformers the movies had already shocked you so many times, but here you have Kranix on trial with the Quintessons. And whether he's guilty or innocent, it doesn't matter. The judge, who happens to switch to the face of death, drops Kranix into the Sharkticon pool, where you see him, he's holding his hand up to be, help me, and the Sharkticons just, boom, eat him up. That reminds me of a scene either from Jaws or Piranha. So, especially when you got Hot Rod there looking and you hear Kranix screaming in the background. I thought that was very, very horror movie style. So that was my number 6, Kranix. Number 5 comes to us from Marvel Comics once again with the death of Scorponok. This is during the Unicron battles as well. Scorponok has found his courage. I mean, in Marvel Comics, they really played on the fact that Scorponok was being controlled by Lord Zarek, a humanoid, Nebulon. Scorponok finds his courage. He's attacking Unicron. Unicron kind of looks down at him and hits him with his fire breath. And when you next see Scorponok, Optimus Prime finds him, and Scorponok is melting into the ground. And so Scorponok's asking Optimus Prime if he did good, and Optimus Prime said yes, and then Scorponok falls back dead. I mean, what's shocking is, one, he's melting into the ground, and then you think about it, there's a humanoid dying right here. We've just witnessed a humanoid die by being melted in the pages of the Transformers. So there's my number 5, Scorponok. Number 4, also from Transformers the movie, Ironhide. Now, I toyed with whether I was going to put this in this top 10 list or not, because Ironhide was shot. So I really didn't want to put victims of shootings. But this scene was so shocking. I mean, you've already went through a whole planet getting destroyed, but, as a kid, you're like, I don't know those people. It's cool and all, but it didn't really affect me. Then there's the attack on the shuttle. You see Brawn get taken out, though I don't think he was killed immediately. He got shot in the shoulder. I think he was one of those, if you see the war movies where they're shooting survivors, I think that's what ended up happening to Brawn. Then you see Ironhide and Ratchet get shot. You see Prowl get shot with the orange smoke coming out of his mouth. You're shocked and amazed. You're like, oh, wow. But when Ironhide crawls over to Megatron, grabs him by the feet, going, no! And the way that camera angle is shot, and Megatron just looking down at Ironhide, and then lets loose with his fusing cannon. I mean, that, when I was a kid and first saw that, I mean, it was just like, you knew he had blown his head off. So there you go. That's my number 5, Ironhide from Transformers the movie. Or excuse me, my number 4. Number 3 is not a very well-known character, but was a very impactful death for me when I read it in the pages of Marvel, was Scrounge. In issue number 17, we're introduced to Scrounge, who happened to be Blaster's partner on Cybertron. Scrounge was an infiltrator. He was a spy. And he got captured by the Decepticons and thrown into their smelting pool, which is what they use to execute Autobots. So during the story, Blaster goes to rescue Scrounge, finds him in the smelting pool, kind of hanging on to the side. Blaster grabs him. Power Glide actually flies overhead, drops a cable to pick them up. And when Blaster pulls Scrounge out of the smelting pool, you see that half of him's missing. He already had his arm ripped off by Lord Straxus. And then just the way that was drawn, he's pulling Scrounge out of the smelting pool, and half of, from here down is gone, and just melted metal falling down, looking like guts. As a kid, I thought that was messed up. So there's my number 3, Scrounge. Number 2 is Galvatron from Marvel UK. As I said with Cyclonus' death, with Cyclonus dying in the past, caused a time rift. Now, Galvatron's still hopping around, causing all kinds of mayhem, and this time rift is catching up to him. And during a climactic battle at the end of the Time Wars story, the time warp, or the time storm, I think it was time rift, I don't know what it was called, but anyway, this anomaly catches up to Galvatron. And when it overlaps him, Galvatron's like screaming defiantly at it, and this thing starts ripping him apart. It pulls the armor off of him. It pulls the skin off of him, if that's what that is, skin. And Galvatron is just left there as a skeleton. I mean, it's sucking his eyes out and everything else. Then you see Galvatron just get sucked up into that rift, and that's it. And that was just, I first read that, I was like, whoa. First off, Transformers have skeletons? But that was so cool and so gory as far as Transformers. And speaking of gory, my number one most horror-style death in the Transformers was Optimus Prime from issue number 76, Marvel Comics. During the Unicron battles, Optimus Prime took the Matrix and flew into Unicron, where Unicron exploded. In the next issue, we find Optimus Prime laying on the planet of Cybertron. Both his legs are missing. His left arm is missing. His chest is ripped apart. His face is missing from here down. He's just laying there in a pool of himself. And then you find out he's still alive. And he's talking to Prowl. And it's just so gruesome the way they drew it. I mean, his mouth plate's missing. You can they drew tears like coming out of his eyes. And then he has this slow, agonizing death. And you got Prowl screaming, no! It was just so shocking. I mean, you've seen Optimus Prime die on the operating table. He was blown up in Marvel Comics. But to see him die again and he's just laying there just so messed up was just, that's my number one. That was horrible. And before you question me, say that shouldn't count because Optimus Prime came back, he came back in High Q. That Optimus Prime on Cybertron was dead. High Q was another version of Optimus Prime. So there you go, guys. That is my top 10 list of Generation 1 horror-style deaths. I'd love to hear in the comments what you think. What's some of your favorite Transformer deaths? It doesn't have to be G1. I know there were some other great deaths in many of the other series. When I was doing this, I was thinking, I think Thrust and Armada, didn't Megatron or Galvatron kind of shove him into the gears of Unicron while he was transforming and he got ground up? That was pretty badass. But anyway, there's my list. Guys, I appreciate you watching. Don't forget to like and don't forget to subscribe. This is Patriot Prime, signing out. Hooah!